engineer, graduate engineer, and a postgraduate from IIM Bangalore. Later, he has worked in all sectors: automobile, heavy electricals, power plants, edible oils, and he is a consultant on the insurance in a big way. He was paneled in many banks as an insurance consultant and valuer. Almost has more than 30 years of experience in the CEO level. He has been advisor to Ministry of Private Sector Development, Government of Ghana, and he has been advisor for the Regional Cooperation Committee, African Regional Cooperation Committee. And he has represented Ghana government in United Nations Forum also. We have shared his profiles also in our circular. Now, here the call is that he is owning 3 industries at Nigeria, Ghana, and Ivory Coast. As a co-entrepreneur, I know the pains of operating from other states within the country. And I have been operating from more than four states. So at a time, I felt that operating in other state where the linguistic barriers are there and the political things, local political things are different. So a person who is operating in 3 countries is for me is a big guru. One great namaste to you, because it needs a lot of guts to stay abroad and operate a company and employ foreign nationals. So I'm privileged that today you are here to share your experience with us. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Abhi, for the nice introduction. I will also introduce myself in a certain qualitative terms before we plunge on to the actual talk. I am basically like an amphibian. An amphibian in the sense that I like to live in 2 worlds. One is academic, another is the business. We call business in the crass way. Like business is rough and tumble. But academic thing is pristine and untouched by the roughness of the business. So we take solace. People who are close to me know that I spend a lot of time, quite a considerable time in my day, solving a few mathematical problems, which really refreshes one's mind. It may not be very tough. At least going through the rigmarole of solving a problem gives you a perspective, a refreshment, having a rank, like an exercise, like a physical exercise gives you a refreshment of the body, which actually releases things like the oxytocins and those sort of things people say. This mental exercise gives a good thing to keep abreast of things and keep your mind sharp. I would rather entreat the employees of Janutech to not to have the roots, to not leave the roots of they're all engineers, and most of them are engineers. And Abhi should agree with me, because I should rather entreat them to keep touch with the basics. Take some time now and then to be in touch with the basic maths and physics, which reinforces your understanding of other subjects of higher order level. The basics are always basics and fundamentals are always fundamentals. I have seen people who lose track of these fundamentals but talk of high things. But you ask them to draw a force diagram, they fumble. Ask them to solve a cubic equation or a quartic equation or a cubic equation, they fumble. So I think an ideal engineer should be somehow, depending on their capabilities, they should be somehow grounded in the basics. So this is what I would entreat as my first advice to the youngsters, employees of Janutech, that stay grounded in your forte, basically the engineering and basic science, mathematics and physics. That's good. Now, talking of Janutech, I think I should say a few words like how I appreciate the endeavor of Abhi and his colleagues into going into this line, which is basically it's a cutting edge technology. It's no doubt it's the forefront of technologies. So it takes a lot of. He talks about me having a lot of guts into going into other countries, but I equally should appreciate him for taking having a lot of guts into going into the cutting edge technology. That too, automation in a place like India where there is a lot of manpower. I remember my BHL days I mean in 1985. I remember that was the time when BHL Hyderabad R&D center, we made a pick and place robot. They made. In fact, I was from by BHL Trichy. So we all went there. They were all as junior engineer trainees. So we all went there and we were shown the demo of that pick and place robot and how they made it and those sort of things. So fine. Automation is the latest. It's not a very early concept. It started maybe about a few decades back. The concept of automation and robotics is certainly a thing which finds application in various gamuts of life, and I'm sure the applications are quite a lot even within a country like India and abroad too. Having said that, I will pose a small teaser to the engineers here. In fact, my presentation I'll start with a question. I don't know the answer. In fact, I thought about it when Abhi asked me to give this presentation. It was in the back of my mind. So I thought I should start the session with something which is relevant to you guys. So it came to me like a flash. It could be absurd. I mean, I was thinking that, we know this. We know this space, what we live in as a Euclidean space. We see as an Euclidean space. So robots operate in the Euclidean space, going from one point in a coordinate system to another point in a coordinate system. I thought about it a couple of days back. What if the space is hyperbolic? Do you guys have an equation, or do you guys have something which a pick and place robot, a simple pick and place robot, can go from point P to point P to point Q in a Euclidean space in a Cartesian coordinate, prescribed by a Cartesian coordinate? Can you have you ever thought the trajectory can be hyperbolic segment? Have you ever thought about it? So my first slide, let me show it. What I thought about it and I don't know the answer. In fact, it could be an absurd thought. But then I browsed yesterday and I found that a research article actually exists. A research article actually exists in a robotic arm, a basic pick and place robot tracking a hyperbolic trajectory. A research paper exists. I just saw that. So let me go to the presentation. With your permission, let me go to the PowerPoint presentation and we can talk from there.
Go ahead, Venki.
I have to present, make a present entire screen. And then I hope now all of you are able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Move the pages.
Are you able to see that?
No, you have to. Yeah. Now it's okay.
Now it's coming. Right. Okay. Now I'm going to share with people. And,
hey, those things are not required.
Yeah. It's okay, right? So I can go for the slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now we can see.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Now this is the topic today: the transnational business and leveraging the engineering knowledge in which segments. So let me say why I called it transnational, not international. It's not that international is meaning between nations. It connotes trade, it connotes flow of goods and services, possibly people. So, but transnational it pervades, goes across the nation, existing, going and setting up something in the nation, in another nation. So you leverage your engineering knowledge in niche areas. By niche areas, I mean where the development has not happened in that particular country, in that segment. So it is something new, which I would like to broach here. Now the agenda. As I told you, this agenda. First, I'll start with the teaser on the robotics, in a non-Euclidean space. And then I'll go to the competitive advantage of nations, and of course, by corollary, it's companies. The companies contribute to the competitive advantage of a nation. So it comes from the company level, it comes from micro level, microeconomic level. And next comes Michael E. Porter, the guru of strategic thinking in marketing, who's always his diamond model. And we talk about core competencies. I will go to talk about a case study of Walam Group. Many of you would have heard about that. It's a great success story, African success story of an Indian group. And then we talk about trading blocks, regional. When I mean trading blocks, it's not encompassing the world, it's regional trading blocks and how to leverage them. It's people think it could be advantage. There are papers which talks about advantage versus disadvantages, but we'll talk about how to leverage them. And of course, non-tariff barriers, what exists in certain countries when you go to them and how to overcome them, and the concluding remarks. Okay, now what I talked about the pick and place robot in a non-Euclidean space. We consider, like, this is only for the engineers here. I mean, engineers of Janutech especially, and I'm sure there are a lot of other guests. They should excuse me for 5 minutes for going into this. So, say I'm just talking about hyperbolic space with a negative curvature of -1. So we consider the Euclidean space, which we all know. We are familiar with the Euclidean space and the Cartesian coordinate system which exists in that. So point P, x1, y1, z1, and point Q is described by 3 coordinates, x2, y2, z2, meaning one for x-axis, one for y-axis, one for z-axis. So the distance between them, as per our analytical geometry, what we have is square root of x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square plus z1 minus z2 whole square. What is the distance of a hyperbolic trajectory between P and Q? So it could be lesser. Sometimes, like, it could be, actually the research paper I told you describes that the pick and place robot following a non-Euclidean trajectory, especially a hyperbolic trajectory, to avoid the obstacles on the way. Avoid the obstacles on the way. That's what it says. So interestingly, I thought about it myself, and then I found that there's already something going on in that line. So it could be purely academic, it could be whatever. People who are, who may not have heard about hyperbolic geometry, I would just say a few words. We all know about what we know about the Euclidean geometry, which we taught in high schools and colleges, what we have been taught. So that is not it's not a perfectly consistent geometry. I'm just taking a few words. I'm taking a digression, just for people who are interested in that. In fact, Euclid, about a few millennia back, sitting in Alexandria, formulated certain axioms or postulates, 5 to be precise, 5 postulates, which form the basis of the geometry till today. The thing which have been told a few millennia back, as still form the basis of what we are studying in the institutions today. But again, the 5th postulate of Euclid, which is called the parallel postulate, which cannot be deduced from other 4 postulates. So there is born the hyperbolic geometry, which throws Euclid to the dustbin. So and we talk about non-Euclidean geometry, which is founded by Lobachevsky, and of course the grandfather of mathematics, Gauss, independently. Okay, so this is a question, it's a teaser, which for you people, for employees of Janutech, think about this when you are in your designs and those sort of things. When it should invoke certain sort of interest in you to study, because you study robots.
Yeah. Kinematics and reverse kinematics, our people are working on that. Let's see.
Exactly, reverse kinematics.
I'll ask my team to work on this.
Yeah. This is actually a great. Actually, Yabi, even the guy who wrote to me, you call him engineers tell satellite constellation, right? This Vera. Yeah. In fact, I would not know. In fact, the general theory of relativity by Einstein. The geometry of general relativity is not Euclidean, it is hyperbolic. The geometry of this general theory of relativity is hyperbolic geometry. So actually, in high speeds or in relativistic scale, we call it relativistic scale means higher speeds approaching velocity of light or very huge dimensions in space. They will follow hyperbolic. In a very micro level, in a small scale level, localized, it is hyperbolic triangle will approach a Euclidean triangle. There's nothing different, not much of sizable difference. So
That's
so having said that, yeah, now we'll go into the business. I know, unintended, business and business, yes. Okay, right. Thank you for this, and we'll go to now. Okay, now, actually, this paper, this small presentation is, I am thinking of a paradigm shift. Like I'm trying to make it different, it's not that we're reinventing a wheel or something like that. I just tend to make thought different. Michael Porter, the guru of Harvard Business School professor. So he wrote this famous book in 1990. It came the first book, Competitive Advantage of Nations. When I was in IIM, this was the Bible. I mean, these people, we were all like it. I entered in 1990, so there was a lot of talk about this, and people are all gaga over this, and of course, this he says. In fact, we are turning the Michael Porter on its head. I mean, why not? He talked about competitive advantage of nations. So the idea, I thought, why can't we find out the competitive disadvantage of nations? The nations are many, 195 to be precise, in the whole world, 195 nations. So not all are competitive. Not all are growing at the same pace. So some have grown this much, US is here, and some countries the back, Latin America is here, Africa is here. So there are various stages of development of nations, and hence, due to various reasons, geopolitical reasons, the competitive edge is also gone in some nations. So why don't you find out the competitive disadvantage, and I call it not advantage, disadvantage of nations, and micro map them, and map your business to that. So this is something which is turning Michael Porter on his head. So this is something which we'll go into this in the subsequent slides. Meanwhile, Michael Porter is not without his critics. Michael Porter, they say that had he pursued, he's a great genius. Had he pursued a possible economics degree, he would have ended up with a Nobel Prize. But he pursued, he did in Harvard Business School, and he went into a business school professor. But his Chicago school was totally opposite to them. So Chicago school, and even you would have heard of Ben Graham, who is a value investing guru. This Warren Buffett is his disciple, rather. Warren Buffett studied under this guy, Ben Graham, and he took the value industry to great heights, which is now everybody knows about value investing, how he succeeded. And Ben Graham himself was a great investor, and Warren Buffett is again, there are success stories. Chicago school is exactly, it is more rigorous. Chicago school believed in empirical research, numbers, and those sort of things. Michael Porter's theories are not so much supported by numbers. So that's why they say, in Boston there is a famous saying, the River Charles divides. You stand on the River Charles, this side you see MIT, that side you see Harvard. So that's a joke in Boston. So somebody went to a shop or something like that. The old lady was selling something. The lady asked, "Are you from this side of the river or that side of the river?" So then she said, if you are from this side of the river, you don't know how to talk. If you are from that side of the river, you don't know how to count. So Harvard Business School is not for numbers. MIT is for numbers. So, but number guys don't talk. Engineers don't talk much. You all know that. Engineers are not good verbally. So she said, "Are you on this side of the river or that side of the river?" This side means you can't talk. That side you can't talk. So I just mentioned Chicago school. Incidentally, Chicago school where our ex-RBI governor Raghuram Rajan did IIT, IIMA, and Chicago school PhD. So he did from there. Okay. Now we're talking of competitive advantage of a nation. Like, how are competitive advantages created? I mean, it's a very important thing. It doesn't come globally. It's a localized phenomenon. This is something which you understand. This is the words. These are the words of Porter, Venkateswaran. So it is not a globalized thing. Suppose I have come here. We have set up a place. We have sown the seeds of an organization here. We brought it from India. Honestly, this what we carried. That's where our home is. Like that's where our stores is. I can't go. Probably I can store some other thing. I buy some technology outside, but the core competence, I can buy a technology from elsewhere. I can source. I can buy, but the core competence comes from the place where I come from. So it is a highly localized process. It's not global. So that's where you should hone your skills. That's why he says home environment makes a difference. Home environs, that makes a difference. So actually, he says that in a world of increasing global competition, people say, I mean, talking about this one, you know about the famous saying of Lee Iacocca. He said, he once famously said, government has no business to be in business.
Yes, Vicky. You are on hold, Vicky. I think there is a technical snag. Let's just wait for a few minutes. He'll be joining.
Sure, sir. No issues.
Excuse me. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
There is a
Yeah.
small snag, it seems. Yeah.
Now it's okay? No, did we miss this one or something like that?
Yeah,
Is
which
it
way almost 1 minute we missed you.
1 minute. Okay, so let me. This slide is. We can start again.
Yes, please go ahead.
You
Yeah.
said government has no business to be in business. From there,
Yeah,
we
correct.
lost you.
Government has no business to be in business. This is Lee Iacocca's famous statement. And even Mahatma Gandhi also, once famously said he visualized the ultimate demise of the state. No, I mean, this is all utopian thinking. This is all extreme thinking. Mahatma Gandhi envisioned a governmentless society. He said the government should wither away. I mean, he actually, was a disciple, not a disciple. He took his inspiration from Henry Thoreau, Tolstoy. Henry Thoreau is basically, an American guy he's Harvard. He's from Harvard. He was from Harvard. He revolted against the government. He even civil disobedience, something which he only started. Civil disobedience was started by Henry Thoreau, and which Mahatma Gandhi picked the idea from. Yabi, can you hear me?
Yeah. We are able to
Yeah,
hear.
if you're not hearing me, just call me on this. I'll know that something is wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so actually, the point is, government's role cannot be said. No, there are people who are total. As I'm telling, Ayn Rand and those sort of people who are pro-capitalist, and who advocate laissez-faire. I mean, this is one side, but governments have a big role to play in making a nation competitive, without doubt. Take for example the current example, very current example, how China is is incentivizing their companies, their economic players to come out of the country and economically colonize Africa and other countries. They're everywhere. The government support is no doubt needed. But whether what China does is right or wrong, I mean, the way it does is doubtful. It may not be right. That's what I'm coming to. So whenever there is, you would have read in papers, you would have seen exporters in India. When the export comes down, they go and lobby the government for, okay, please devalue your currency. Low, the exchange rate is low, the currency is weaker, your exports are more competitive. It's a basic economic theory. When your currency is weaker, your exports are very competitive, so you tend to export more. On the contrary, if your exchange is artificially buoyed up, then your thing suffers, your export suffers. So whenever there is a problem in exports, they go and clamor for. That's why I put into. Labor cost, please reduce the labor cost. We have to go for low minimum labor. Reduce interest rate. Okay, and then go for a monetary policy in which interest rates are reduced, and go for devalue your currency, devalue the local currency, and we want economies of scale. But this is not all. What is important? These are all not in the right direction. These turn out to be self-defeating in the long run. So actually, I'm telling you,
You are sharing the slide, Vicky?
Sorry?
You are sharing the PPT?
I'm sharing. It's not coming?
Yeah, it's not there.
But you can hear me, right? That's all. But you can't share.
Yes, no issues. Go ahead.
Now it's okay?
Yeah, you can. I can hear you, but you want to share the slide or not?
Okay. Let me see. Now it's sharing?
Not yet, thank you.
No. Hold on. I'll show. I'll go to that. Okay.
You don't feel like you can go ahead also. No issue.
Yeah. It's coming now?
No, not yet. Yes.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's visible.
Right. So that's what I'm telling. People clamor, but actually the more important thing is actually to go in for innovation and core competence. That's what is required. An industry which innovates. The innovation can be in the product. The innovation can be in the marketing strategy. Innovation can be in a customer approach. Innovation can be in a training, even in a training model. Like that could innovation. People think innovation as something very big. It could be simple, a mundane, single-step improvement over the existing thing. Okay. Now let us go to the next. This is what Porter's diamond model. So it's a diamond. It's personal a diamond shape. Porter's famous diamond model. Determinants of national competitive advantage. He says that the factor conditions, basically the labor, the strong technical background guys, good manpower, trained manpower, all this strongly interact with each other with the strong domestic rivals. Strong domestic rival is actually welcome. People who you should encourage. You should be happy that you get rivals. So your skills, your company's approach, your company's strengths, you become more strengthened in terms of your technique. Because when you say strong, you have to improve your skills actually. So and then the related and supporting structures, supply chain, where you have a suppliers, very aggressive suppliers who can demanding customers on one side and aggressive set of suppliers on the other side. So these will tend to improve your strategic position, the strategic your strength, and the firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. The examples are many. Like in the world, you take Switzerland is known for banking, is known for pharmaceutical companies. A lot of very strong, big multinational companies which are. These are the core. Some countries excel in certain fields. So because their country feels it is ripe for them to support those industries. And Holland for floriculture, for a cultivation of floriculture, which carved its own niche. Similarly, of all the things, the maximum, the greatest advantage comes from Japan, where it has a fierce competition locally, very fierce. So there are even in machine tools, in various segments, in automobiles. Internally, there's domestic competition internally, strong domestic rivals. When I say that, this improves your international ability to compete internationally. You compete internationally, you excel internationally. I think it's all relevant to your company also, because once Janutech has good, strong rivals, your product will be more, it will be more competitive internationally. Your product will be more welcome internationally, because future is going to be, suppose somebody asks for a very strong specification, very tough specification of a product. You say, oh, this customer is demanding. But believe me or not, tomorrow that standard is going to become the standard of tomorrow. Today it could be tough, but world is improving. So never shun a customer who is more demanding. Never shun a standard which is more exacting. This is very important. This is Porter's diamond model, where he says the interaction of all these things make a country competitive, and firm and a country both. Okay. Now, let us see how we can, how the main topic is, how do we use our strengths. Abhi, can you see the slide and also hear me?
Yes. You're able to see.
Yeah. Wealth of nations. Okay. The wealth of nation. National prosperity is created, not inherited. If national prosperity is only created, Africa will be the wealthiest country in the world today. So people think that the national wealth, it is a base. Like, for example, your natural resources can only take you to some level, but not in the modern world. There is also something called Dutch disease effect in economics. I should talk to you about that. People feel, you hit oil. Ghana hit oil in 2009. So then there was a lot of noise here, and I was also participating in a government level meeting as to how to capitalize on that, and how Ghana will become like Dubai. We're talking about that. Actually, we had a lot of visitors from Nigeria, our neighbor. Nigeria is the sixth biggest oil producing country in the world. Sixth biggest oil producing country in the world. And it has a population of about 180 million. It has got a good amount of, though the per capita is less, its national GDP is fairly sizable, and it is the biggest economy in Africa. But to see the state, the poverty, the disparity of income, the development is pathetic. Though there is a lot of money there, still it is not a rich nation. So those people came there and said, actually one guy came, he's from Wharton Business School, Wharton Business School, UPenn, University of Pennsylvania. It's a very famous, it's a very big school. This guy studied in Wharton. He was he worked as a business manager in a Nigerian oil company. He told me, he took me aside and said, in 2009, he told me, do you think that oil is a boon for you? Oil is a bane for you. So you will now face all the problems. But what he said, the reason was different. He talked about corruption. He talked about when you're not seeing money. He said, once you get the oil, money will pour through the roof. It makes you mad. It changes the way. That's how money is. The money changes the way we think. The money changes the way we live. The money changes the way we behave with others. But then he said that the oil money is so high that it will corrupt you. But I have another, that's that apart. But there's an academic approach to it. It's called Dutch disease effect. So take the example of Nigeria. Nigeria was, before oil was stuck in somewhere in the late 60s or early 70s. Before it was a fairly developing country. It had a big base of agriculture. It had industrial base. HMT, Hindustan Machine Tools, had their operations in Nigeria before, in 1970. So they had a reasonably good infrastructure. It was growing. I mean, it was growing as such. It's not spectacular, but it was growing in a decent way. But once oil stuck, they start exporting oil. Once you start exporting oil, your currency appreciates. Your currency appreciates. Your naira, which is the local currency, appreciates against all the major currencies in the world. Once your currency appreciates, your other exports, your non-traditional, non-oil exports come down. So all the industries died out. All the industries. This is called Dutch disease effect. It says in economics it's called Dutch disease. Dutch face the similar thing, I guess. So once it is said that once a country has comes across a natural resource like oil or a gold or any other mineral, things like that, we start exporting. It actually is detrimental to the other sectors of the economy, and they died out. So that's what happened in Nigeria for a long time. Still, the country is, you can't say big about that. It's still at that stage only, except that it gets oil wealth, which is taken away by the presidents, and they fly helicopters full of dollars every day out of the country. So, fine. Having said that, what I said was national prosperity is created. The creation comes from the people, from the knowledge, from the innovation, from the creative base of the people in the country. It's not inherited. It is entrepreneurial spirit which is important. So, what we would say here, development of nations is inevitable. All nations develop. Now that due to globalization, due to the information sharing, due to the cross-border transfer of material, services, development of nations is inevitable. But also inevitable are the lags and different phases that are present. Some countries are behind the curve. Some are ahead of the curve. Some are on the curve. So let us micro match. Let us micro match these things to the requirements. The engineering base, with the engineering knowledge, like certain countries lag certain industries. So a country's, for example, an aggressive planner, an aggressive businessman shall look into this and match it, so that he can go to the country and then serve that. Okay. Now, going into the country is a linear model. It's just linear. There's nothing non-linear about it. So X to Y, finish. But there's another phenomenon which has been happening for the past more than less than a century, but more than half a century. Coming together of nations. Nations are joining hands in various pockets. So they form. You all are aware of the regional blocks. You know about India forming regional block, European Union. European Union is a famous thing which we all know, which you all heard about, which you are familiar with, how the Europe is unified. So there are various phases of coming together of the nations. One is before that there's another. Preferential trade. The country can agree a preferential trade. It can say, okay, I can allow your goods, this and goods to be imported at 5% duty. And that country reciprocates, okay, I allow this from your country. This is a preferential trade. Next is simple free trade. Simple free trade is, okay, boss, we form an agreement. So whatever goods come to your country of your origin, we make it zero duty. And whatever from there, zero duty. So it is a simple free trade area. Customs union. Customs union is a bit more complicated on this, because it has the same tariff and it forms a bigger, more nations are in this. Common market envisages free flow of goods as well as personnel, trained personnel. People can go across. They travel, they can go for employment across the countries which is in the particular union. And monetary union, forming a single currency like euro. Euro started as a simple. Europe went through all these phases. Europe went through, first it went as 1970s. We talked about free trade. Then we have a European Common Market (ECM). Then we had further improvement. Then finally it culminated in the monetary union where the euro was born, subject to certain parameters like some financial parameters and the economic parameters of each country. They should have so much percentage of GDP deficit, fiscal deficit of GDP. Fiscal deficit as a percent of GDP, that's convergence criteria, they call it. So, subject to that, they form the monetary union. Monetary union, as a success, has happened only in one place all over the world, that's Europe. Nowhere else it has happened. We tried. In fact, I was a part of the committee here. I knew it won't happen, but our government here, the government in Ghana was telling, the minister was telling that, we should try for a single currency. We even called it, we even named it. fact, we put an advertisement in the papers in 2000 asking for a competition to name the currency. We paid money for the people who succeeded. Then we called it ECO. But I was telling, I was telling the minister also. So, you don't even have a common market. I mean, you don't even have a proper common market. You have, but you don't have. I mean, there are a lot of flaws that time. People are not obeying. Not all the countries. I'll come to that. So, fine. Now, regional trading bloc. So, regional trading bloc means there are regionals where countries join together and form trading blocs. So, these are some of the regional trading blocs in the country and the population. SAFTA, which is India, which comprises India and other neighboring countries, which is actually more populated. The more important things where I will concentrate is this one, ECOWAS. ECOWAS is Economic Community of West Africa, where I am there. So this is where I was advisor to formation of, not formation, it was formed by the time. I was advisor to government of Ghana for certain implementation of certain ideas on this. It was not working. Way back in 2005, 6, even 2005 and 6, there are supposed to be 15 countries in this ECOWAS, 15 countries, 15. Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Mali, Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone, the countries around that. The peculiarity of ECOWAS is, of this 15, 9 are Anglophone, 9 are Francophone, 5 are Anglophone. So 9 speak French, only French, and 5 speak English, only English. So the French guys, they had their own system also. Sometimes we could even. In fact, I went with the team to Senegal. You heard about the country called Senegal. We went to meet the custom commissioner there, custom head actually as a team. So he was even said, "Oh no, we don't want to respect ECOWAS," something like that. Actually, he said like that. Though the government was signatory to that. So the countries individually they were not. So I even advised the minister that we should form bilateral treaty. Leave the multilateral ones. Let us go for bilateral treaties and those sort of things. So we did sign some bilateral treaty, but by now I find that now I'm out of that advisory position. Everything it was long back. Now I find that now countries are more abiding, and of this many countries are actually respecting the zero duty movement of goods. But in ECOWAS, you can't. There's no movement of people can go without visa, but people cannot work. You should get a work permit. So it is not. It is exactly a sort of a trading community. That's it. So there's 400 million people, and similarly, common market for Eastern and Southern Africa 560. That's higher because actually it encompasses from Northern Africa. They went up to Eastern, covering up to Morocco also. They get Tunisia. It's on Tunisia down. So actually they are more, but it doesn't make sense. I don't know whether Tunisia is going to respect those sort of things. Visa to me happens between Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. These 3 countries are. Likewise, SADC is the South African Development Community, and of course there's something below, which is basically South American, Latin American nations. Mercosur, I call Mercosur. So they have their own union. Why I am telling this? Why I am showed this? This is the way, you have 400 million people. Once you go into any of these countries, remember, a business is set up in any of these countries, the 15 nations, I'm talking about us. You have the access to a population of 400 million, which is almost 30% of India's population. Once you have an access to COMISA, where you put up your business in one of the countries, you have access, zero duty access. I mean, okay, somewhat theoretically, somewhat practically, you have 560 million people access. This is almost half the population of India. So that's where the opportunity lies. So when international trade, gone are the days when you say you go and set up a business there and you serve only the nation. Because of the economic union and the preferential treatment, the hinterland, the whole of ECOWAS offers you a population of 400 million people to serve. Leave the GDP, but still, even if the GDP per capita is lower, still it is a good amount of population to serve. So this one is something which the companies should look at. The companies like Abyss or startups like who are really coming up and they want to set up somewhere, they should look into places where you station and have an access to a bigger population than what is there in the country. Okay? So,
Yes, sir.
any doubt in this?
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I have some questions we'll call once you are
Yeah, you
free.
can ask, you can interrupt here.
Go ahead, then I'll talk in the last level.
Yeah, no problem. Fine, fine. Now, we come to, okay. Actually, I should have told about a particular thing. I left out one particular case, which is very interesting. So, we talked of the core competence, core competence in such nations. Like, okay, here's what I can talk about. So, actually, the companies which have come and set up, like we call competence. Competence, what is a competence? Competence is, define a competence. Competence is an edge of a person or a country or a person or a company or a country over its competitors either in its product, service, or after the product or service. That's what we call a competence. It's something which or any form. It's competence, financial competence, market competence. So that's how we define competence as. So we can talk of geographic competence. I can say, okay, let us define it slightly higher. Like suppose a company specializes in a geography, and it has so much of forte in this geography. So it is called a geographical competence. So in this country, in these countries, in this geography, this group has a huge competence. So companies should strive for that. But my goal, in fact, we manufacture construction chemicals, and also we have a separate group for making washed PET flakes for making the polyester fibers. So we strive. In fact, I have my own brand. So we strive to create a competence in the geography. I mean, we are not like, again, talking about, we are not Panasonic, we are not LG, we are not General Electric. We don't have that much financial. We are startup, we are small, we are Davids. We are not Goliaths. We are Davids. But again, Davids succeed many times. Davids succeed, of course, many times. So, talking of Ben Graham versus Michael Porter. Porter was betting on huge companies with bigger moat. Bigger the moat, the bigger the profit. That's what Porter said. But Graham bet on Davids. He bet on Davids, and he proved. Even Columbus, Chicago School. Chicago School was harping on empiricism, which consisted the Davids. Small. So, the competence, geographical competence, is something which here I want to talk about one David. So this David was called Wala. About 25 years, no, about 40 years back. 40 years back, it was a Sindhi company, small Sindhi company, trading in commodities. It was based in Nigeria. So I know some of that family members who are the original shareholders here. They were dealing in commodities. So then they professionalized, and there's a guy now, he grew the company. His name is Sunny Varghese. He's from IIM Ahmedabad. So he's based in Singapore. It's called Volam International. People have heard about it. So now the turnover of the group is $5 billion. $5 billion. And it is their core competence is in competing, two core competence. They have done two core competence. One core competence is the commodities. They are big players in commodities. They are into cocoa, they are into cashews and sesame seeds, and they have gone into backward integration from there. Based on the core competence, having established that, they have gone into backward integration, manufacturing biscuits, manufacturing oil, manufacturing. They gone into backward integration. Forward integration. Forward integration. They went into items to make the further items, further products. So this company, is a classic example of a company building on a core competence on a product, on a field of operation, and in a geography. So their play field is Africa. They started in Nigeria, though they are everywhere in Africa. So they have so many employees. They employ so many graduates from IIM and IIMs, and they have done very well. They've done very well. And big business schools also they've taken. A lot of other schools also they've taken, and they've done very well. So Wallam is a case study which you can talk about having leverage their core competence, leverage the niche strength in certain segments, and also had the geography. I also insist on geographical competence. So India's geography, South Asia's geography, Africa's geography, Latin America's geography. So the geographical competence one can build upon once you micromap, once you do the micromapping. Now, coming to the non-tariff barriers. Okay, we talked of tariffs, which tariffs being dismantled, and so there are. I think we're running out. We are 8 minutes more to close at 12 o'clock.
No issues. No issues. We'll complete.
So tariffs. We talked about tariffs, like tariffs being broken regionally, tariffs being dismantled regionally for the mutual benefits, forming regional blocks. Now, but then there is not tariff barriers. So we thought of if you think that dismantling of tariff is everything, we are deluding ourselves. So I have an operation in ECOWAS, other countries. Theoretically, or even practically, yes, there is no tariff between Ivory Coast and Ghana. Ivory Coast is a francophone country. We have a factory there. We have an establishment there. We sometimes send goods. Okay, good. We say fine. There is ECOWAS is obeyed. So zero duty. Send. But there are other barriers. Like one is the language. Language is even in a developed world, you find that language stands in the way of an all-out venture into a place. You find that Indians don't crowd much of francophone space, but in their anglophone space they crowd. Language is one of the barriers. Like Spanish, suppose you want to go to Brazil, it's Portuguese. Suppose nobody wants to go to Colombia or Mexico now. It's too much of drugs and other things. So if you want to go to Argentina or Peru, so then you have to do it in Spanish, Portuguese. Even in Africa, there is Angola, which is Portuguese, Mozambique, which is Portuguese, and quite a lot of francophone countries. So these countries have their language barriers. So we need to master the language and go into number one. Coming with the language, the culture. Close on the heels of the language follows the culture. French have a different culture. Even today, you'll be surprised that, I was a small anecdote. The French have the siesta. Every day, working day. They go for 2 hours sleep, 1 hour or 2 hours sleep. So every day they go home, sleep and come. So this is called siesta. And it was a habit in France, which these colonies, the French colonies, they pick up all the bad things. Those cannot pick up the good things, they pick up the bad things. So actually I was talking to can you hear me, Abhi?
Yeah.
Actually, I was talking to a manager in Burkina Faso. He's a general manager of something MD of a big edible oil plant. I was supplying the packing gallons to him. So we were talking to him. Suddenly he got up out of this. He was just talking like this. I was sitting, and my person was talking. He was just making it just as if getting up. I was surprised. Then my person told it's 12 o'clock. He has to go home. Then he said, I'll be back by 2 o'clock. They go, have food, and actually sleep, and then come. Yeah. So this is one of the characteristics of you go to Senegal or this francophone countries, 2 to 4 the shops are closed. The market is empty. Like you may even get mugged, you may get dropped. I mean, you won't touch wood. But I'm telling you, it's so empty that But actually, one guy got robbed. One of my employees got robbed. I remember. He was going and somebody came and showed a knife and took his purse from him. Because nobody took his wallet from him.
That's it.
So this is something which is a culture. You have to take note of the culture. The economic history and the vestiges. Economic history has a major role to play in the current country's behavior. When call it vestiges, English, when they when they went out, when they went out, they'd gone out of the country, they just relinquished and went. British, when they went out of Ghana, they just went. But French, they gave freedom to these countries, neighboring countries. They didn't actually leave, in the sense that they still hold the economic strings. They hold the economic strings. Their budget, their monetary policies are made in France. You'll be surprised. The monetary policies, the interest rates, because their currency is tied to euro. It's pegged to euro. So it varies as the euro. So it is a plus as well as a minus, because it doesn't fluctuate much. It's quite stable. But all their monetary policies are controlled in Paris. And certain segments like pharmaceuticals, you can't set up a pharmaceutical company in Ivory Coast. Whereas in Ghana, a lot of Indians have set up a pharma company.
Okay.
No, formulation, not bulk, formulations. So they have done, but you can't do that in Frankfurt, because all are controlled by France, and the tender goes to Paris. So you can't do a thing about pharma. These restrictions still exist. When I call vestiges, these are the vestiges, which are remnants of economic history. And exchange rate regulation and restrictions. Some countries have exchange rate regulations. The transmission of your profits are difficult. So these are Ariu is in this meeting. He knows that he is experienced in Ethiopia, where the exchange is quite difficult to get dollars. So some countries are like that. And the monetary policy, the interest rates and other things also play a major role. And and so actually my final advice is, as I told you, let me sum it up to the youngsters of this meeting. So you, first of all, as I told you, stay rooted in the basics, stay rooted in the fundamentals, and be innovative, even though it is stepwise. So by stepwise, it can be like a single step at a time. Like that's one of the improvements, innovations. Yeah. So